Alright, when you're doing any soldering on zinc, it's very important to clean the metal very thoroughly to get all the grease and fingerprints and everything off the zinc. Denatured alcohol works pretty well of getting rid of all that surface, and it evaporates nice and dry. You also want to make sure you rough up the zinc, and steel wool or really fine grit sandpaper helps get that nice and shiny. You want to get all the oxidation off of the zinc so it's very bright and clean. And I always like to do a little denatured alcohol or mild soap and water after you do the steel wool to get all that out. Okay, next you want to flux the zinc, and we like using our paste flux so it doesn't drip away. You want to get the flux in there nice and good. You want that to sit, and so that way the acids in the flux also help clean and etch up the zinc. And just let that sit for 4 to 5 minutes, and then you can start getting ready to solder. Alright, the key to soldering zinc is you really need to get the zinc heated up to about 400 or 500 degrees before you solder. I like to use a little torch, and that helps get the moisture and really warm up the zinc. Now, it's very critical that you don't go above the 400 or 500, or else you might melt the zinc. The zinc melts at about 770 Fahrenheit, so it's very easy to melt the zinc. So you need to be really careful just to move it back and forth and just kind of get a rough idea that you're getting it up there, and just make sure you don't go over it. So I like to do this. This helps with the soldering process. Get it nice and warm. You don't want to go too hot. And then for the actually soldering process, you've got a couple options. We've got about a 100-watt soldering gun, and you can also use that to get in there and heat up the zinc. You really want to melt the solder, or you want to make the sheet melt the solder to get the really true solder joint. And the solder melts at about 450 degrees, and that zinc will melt at about 770. So you really want to. There's a very narrow spot of temperature range that you need to hit to get the solder to melt. And if you go over, it's very easy to melt the sheet, and then you've ruined the whole corner. So this is an electric soldering iron. This is also, I'm just going to test it here, see if we're going. Not quite there yet. Let's keep going. Now, it's very easy to melt the solder against the soldering iron, but you really want to get that sheet hot and have that solder flow down. Also try the old-fashioned copper tip soldering irons are really good at getting a lot of heat in that zinc. This is a soldering tip that you heat up in a flame, get it really hot. I'm going to build it up just a little bit, and once it cools, go back and sand it. After you've done soldering, I like to clean off the flux before you do any sort of grinding or sanding and finishing work, so that doesn't spread everywhere. So I just use some more denatured alcohol or mild soap and water, and you want to get it as clean as you can. Get all that flux residue off. And now I'm just going to take some sandpaper. You can start I like anywhere from 100 to 300 grit, and you want to work yourself higher. And the solder and zinc are very soft, so it doesn't take much to shape out that corner. And you can also use the hand vibrating sanders, work very well. These are the oval ones. So now we've got it nice and sanded down. The solder is going to be, it's not a perfect match, but it'll be as close to the zinc as you can get, as it's a tin zinc solder. And now once you go ahead and buff over and sand out the entire sheet, it'll be a lot more uniform, and then you can either seal it, the tabletop or countertop, or you can just leave it alone. You could patina it, then you could seal it, so you have many different options. If you do patina it, it'll blend in even more the soldering joints well.